The 911 dispatcher's voice crackled over my radio. "Chief, we have a report of an adult woman harassing a child at the Oakwood Estates bus stop." My blood ran cold when she added the location, the exact corner where I'd dropped off my daughter, Emma, 10 minutes earlier. I was already turning my unmarked police SUV around before the dispatcher finished with, "Caller identifies the woman as Patricia Holloway from the HOA." That's when I knew exactly what was happening, and Patricia had no idea the line she was about to cross. "My name is Michael Reeves, and 3 weeks ago I became both the new chief of police for the city of Somerset and a resident of Oakwood Estates, an upscale suburban community with manicured lawns, community amenities, and apparently an overzealous homeowners association president. The move had been a fresh start for Emma and me after losing my wife Sarah to cancer 18 months earlier. The promotion to chief came with a significant salary increase that allowed us to afford a home in a neighborhood with excellent schools, something Sarah had always wanted for our daughter. Emma, at 12 years old, was still adjusting to life. Without her mother, the move to a new city, and starting 7th grade in an unfamiliar school district. And as a father and police officer, I had done everything by the book, registered her for school, attended the parent orientation, memorized the bus schedule, and triple-checked that everything was in order for her first day. What I hadn't counted on was Patricia Holloway. I had met Patricia briefly at the mandatory HOA welcome meeting, where she had presented me with a 3-ring binder containing 147 pages of community guidelines, restrictions, and bylaws. She had emphasized particular sections about lawn maintenance, trash can placement, and appropriate holiday decorations, seeming particularly fixated on my understanding that only tasteful Christmas lights would be tolerated. The previous owners, she had said with a thin smile, never quite understood the standards we maintain at Oakwood. I had nodded politely, explained that I worked in law enforcement and was accustomed to following rules, and thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. That Monday morning had started routinely. Emma and I had breakfast together. She insisted on making pancakes as a first day of school tradition, just as Sarah used to do. She seemed nervous but excited, dressed in carefully chosen new clothes, her backpack meticulously packed the night before. "You've got this, Em," I assured her as I pulled up to the designated bus stop at the corner of Maple Drive and Oakwood Lane. Several other children and a few parents were already waiting. "I know, Dad," she said with fragile confidence. "I'll text you when I get to school." I watched her walk to join the small cluster of kids, noting with relief when a girl about her age immediately struck up a conversation. I waited until I saw her laugh at something the other girls said before pulling away, heading to the station to start my own first day in a new office. I had been at the station less than 10 minutes, still unpacking family photos for my desk, when the call came in. As I sped back toward Oakwood Estates, the dispatcher relayed more information. Caller states an adult woman is questioning a child about whether she lives in the neighborhood, demanding identification, and refusing to let her board the school bus. "Any description of the child?" I asked, already knowing. "Female, approximately 12 years old, wearing a purple top and jeans. Emma." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. I arrived at the bus stop in under 4 minutes to find the school bus pulled over, its red lights flashing. A small crowd of parents and children had formed a loose circle around 2 figures. My daughter, clutching her backpack to her chest like a shield, and a middle-aged woman in tailored beige pants and a polo shirt embroidered with Oakwood Estates. "HOA." As I approached, I could hear Patricia's voice, sharp and accusatory. "Simply cannot allow unauthorized children to use our community bus stop. It's a liability issue, and without proper documentation that you actually live here." "My dad and I moved here 3 weeks ago," Emma interrupted, her voice smaller than usual but impressively steady. "We live at 742 Birchwood Court." "Anyone could claim that," Patricia countered, "without a resident ID card, which we were told would be processed and mailed to us within 30 days of moving in," I interjected, stepping into the circle. Patricia turned, her expression momentarily uncertain before hardening again. "Mr. Reeves, correct? Your daughter needs proper identification to use community amenities, including this bus stop." I positioned myself beside Emma, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Chief Reeves, actually, Somerset Police Department." I didn't flash my badge. I didn't need to. My department-issued SUV with its official markings was clearly visible behind me. Patricia faltered for just a moment before recovering. "Well, Chief Reeves, then you should understand the importance of following rules and procedures. Your daughter needs her resident ID." "What my daughter needs," I said evenly, "is to get on that bus and go to her first day at a new school without being harassed by an adult with no legal authority to demand identification from a minor." I turned to the bus driver, who had been watching the exchange with obvious discomfort. "I apologize for the delay. My daughter is Emma Reeves, registered at Somerset Middle School, and she has every right to be on this bus." The driver nodded. "She's on my roster, sir." "Excellent." I turned back to Patricia. "Now, Ms. Holloway, we need to discuss what just happened here, specifically your detention and harassment of my daughter." "Detention?" Patricia scoffed. "That's absurd. I was simply enforcing community guidelines." "You prevented a minor from boarding her school bus while demanding identification she doesn't yet possess. You continued this behavior after she identified herself and her residence. According to multiple witnesses," I gestured to the parents and children still watching, "you told her she could not board the bus without your permission. That constitutes unlawful detention of a minor, intimidation, and could potentially be construed as interfering with access to education." Patricia's face flushed. "I was acting in my capacity as HOA president. HOA presidents have no legal authority to detain anyone, much less a child," I interrupted. "Now, I'm going to ensure my daughter gets on this bus, and then you and I are going to continue this conversation at the station." "The station?" Her voice rose an octave. "Are you threatening me with arrest for doing my job? Your job does not include demanding identification from minors or preventing them from going to school. And yes, at minimum, I am considering charges of harassment and unlawful detention of a minor." I turned to Emma, whose eyes were wide but dry. She had always been strong, like her mother. "You okay, Em?" I asked quietly. She nodded. "I'm fine, Dad. Go ahead and get on the bus. Have a great first day, and I'll see you this afternoon." She hesitated. "Is she going to bother me again tomorrow?" "No," I said firmly, loud enough for Patricia to hear. "She absolutely will not." After Emma boarded and the bus pulled away, I turned back to Patricia, who had pulled out her phone. "I'm calling my attorney," she announced. "This is harassment." "That's your right," I acknowledged. "However, I still need you to accompany me to the station to give a statement regarding this incident." "Am I under arrest?" she demanded, clearly playing to the audience of neighbors still watching. "At this moment, I'm requesting you come voluntarily to provide your account of events. Whether charges are filed will depend on that statement and witness accounts." "This is outrageous," she sputtered. "I was protecting our community from a 12-year-old girl trying to go to school." One of the watching parents, a woman I recognized from the welcome meeting, stepped forward. "Chief Reeves, I witnessed the entire interaction. Patricia told your daughter she looked suspicious and demanded to see something with her address on it. When Emma said she didn't have anything like that, Patricia stood directly in front of the bus steps and told the driver not to let her board." Another parent nodded agreement. "I heard her tell Emma that children who don't belong here have been trying to use our bus stop to get into better schools." Patricia's face had gone from flushed to pale. These parents are all biased against me because I enforce the rules that keep our property values high. I had heard enough. Ms. Holloway, based on these witness statements, I am placing you under arrest for unlawful detention of a minor and harassment. You have the right to remain silent. As I recited her Miranda rights, the reality of her situation finally seemed to dawn on Patricia. Her phone slipped from her fingers as I gently but firmly turned her around to apply handcuffs. "You can't do this," she whispered, no longer playing to the crowd. "Do you know who my husband is?" "That's irrelevant to your actions today," I replied professionally, guiding her toward my vehicle. "You'll have the opportunity to contact both your husband and your attorney from the station." The processing of Patricia Holloway at Somerset Police Station caused quite a stir. Officers who had been eager to meet their new chief certainly hadn't expected him to arrive with an arrestee in tow on his first official day. Detective Lisa Martinez, who I'd appointed as my second-in-command based on her stellar record, raised an eyebrow as I escorted a handcuffed Patricia to processing. "Productive morning, Chief?" she asked dryly. "Just establishing community relations," I replied, matching her tone. After Patricia was processed and placed in an interview room, Martinez pulled me aside. "You should know that her husband is James Holloway," she said quietly. "Should that name mean something to me? City councilman. Has aspirations for mayor in next year's election." I nodded, understanding the potential political complications. "Noted, but it doesn't change what happened." "Never said it should," Martinez replied with a slight smile. "Just making sure you're prepared for the phone calls that will be coming." She wasn't wrong. Within 30 minutes, the station's administrative assistant informed me that the mayor, the city manager, and Councilman James Holloway himself had all called demanding explanations. "Tell them I'll provide a full briefing once I've completed my investigation," I instructed. In the interview room, Patricia had regained some of her composure. Her attorney, a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit, sat beside her. "Chief Reeves," he began, "my client was simply performing her duties as HOA president. This has been blown wildly out of proportion. I'd be interested to see the HOA bylaws that authorize detaining children and preventing them from attending school," I replied, placing a digital recorder on the table. "This interview is being recorded. Please state your names for the record." The interview lasted nearly an hour. Patricia's version of events shifted several times, from claiming she was just having a conversation with Emma to suggesting she had received complaints about unauthorized children, using the bus stop, to admitting she might have been overzealous in her approach. Her attorney, realizing the weakness of their position given the multiple witness statements I'd collected, eventually steered toward damage control. "My client acknowledges that her approach may have been inappropriate and is willing to issue a formal apology to your daughter," he offered. "That's a start," I acknowledged. "However, this isn't just about my daughter. It's about abuse of perceived authority and the illegal detention of a minor." By interview's end, we had reached an agreement. Patricia would be charged with harassment, a lesser charge than unlawful detention, and would be released on her own recognizance with the understanding that she would have no contact with Emma or any other children at the bus stop. As she was being processed for release, James Holloway arrived, a tall, polished man with the confident bearing of a career politician. "He requested a private word in my office, Chief Reeves," he began once the door closed. "I want to apologize for my wife's behavior. She has always been zealous about community standards." "Zealousness doesn't excuse detaining a child," I responded. "No, it doesn't," he agreed, surprising me. "Patricia has been under considerable stress lately. The HOA presidency has become something of an obsession for her since she left her career to support mine." I studied him, noting what appeared to be genuine embarrassment and concern. "Councilman, I appreciate the difficult position this puts you in, but I need to be clear. Your wife's actions today were illegal, regardless of her intentions or stress levels. I understand completely. I'm not here to ask for special treatment. He paused. Well, not exactly. Patricia needs help, professional help. She's become increasingly fixated on control and rules in the past year. I've been trying to convince her to step down from the HOA and seek therapy. And how does this relate to today's charges? I'm hoping the court might consider mandatory counseling as part of any resolution, not instead of consequences, but alongside them. It was a reasonable request, and one that aligned with my own belief in restorative justice where appropriate. I can't make promises about court decisions, I said carefully, but I have no objection to including counseling recommendations in our case file. He nodded gratefully. Thank you. And please, extend my deepest apologies to your daughter. This is not the welcome to Oakwood that any new resident should receive, let alone the child of our new police chief. That evening, when Emma returned from school, I was waiting at the bus stop. The shadow of the morning's events hung between us as we walked home. So, she finally said, did that lady really get arrested? She did, I confirmed, but she's been released now. Emma processed this silently for a moment. Is she going to hate us now? She's not allowed to contact you at all, I assured her. And from what I understand, she'll be resigning from the HOA board. The other kids on the bus said she does stuff like that all the time. Not arresting people, but like being super strict about everything. Jason said she fined his parents because their trash can was visible from the street for more than 3 hours after collection. I wasn't surprised. People who abused small amounts of power often did so consistently. Well, sometimes people need a wake-up call about the difference between rules and laws. 2 days later, an emergency HOA meeting was called. As new residents, Emma and I attended, walking into a community center buzzing with conversation that hushed momentarily when people noticed us. Gerald Fisher, the HOA vice president, opened the meeting with an announcement. Patricia Holloway has submitted her resignation as president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association, effective immediately. A murmur rippled through the room. Surprise mixed with what sounded distinctly like relief. Additionally, Gerald continued, the board wishes to extend a formal apology to Chief Reeves and his daughter for Monday's unfortunate incident, which in no way reflects the welcoming community we strive to maintain. After the meeting, several neighbors approached us, introducing themselves and offering their own apologies and welcomes. One woman about my age introduced herself as Diana Chen, the HOA's secretary. I've been trying to introduce more flexibility into our guidelines for years, she confided. Patricia's resignation might finally give us the chance to focus more on building community than policing it. That sounds like a worthwhile goal, I agreed. As weeks passed, the story of HOA Karen versus the police chief's daughter became something of a neighborhood legend, repeated with increasing embellishment at community gatherings. Patricia and James Holloway put their house on the market and moved to a neighboring city, where I heard he won a council seat the following year. The new HOA leadership, with Diana Chen as president, implemented a more collaborative approach to community governance. The infamous binder of rules was revised down to a reasonable 30 pages, with an emphasis on guidelines rather than strict regulations. Emma adjusted well to her new school and made friends both there and in the neighborhood. Occasionally she would reference that crazy first day, with the eye roll only a teenage girl can perfect, but the incident ultimately became just another story in our family history. As for me, the unorthodox start to my tenure as police chief actually worked in my favor. The community saw that I would apply the law equally regardless of political connections, while officers respected that I had stood up for my family while maintaining professional conduct. 6 months after we moved in, Emma and I finally felt at home in Oakwood Estates, And when December came, we put up the brightest, most colourful Christmas lights on the block, tasteful or not.